Hello there. I wanted to make this little video. We were doing some research on sun and moon on, I think it was Friday night, when Chris came up with this idea that he thought the moon was a bit like a biscuit. And these pictures I took in December 2016. I'm just going to play these pictures because the moon is a chocolate chip cookie. So this is the first one, and I'm just going to play, make sure I go the right way. Might go the wrong way, that's the wrong way, so go this way. And I just saturated it a tiny bit with colour, you know, to change the colour, because obviously the sky's dark. The only thing that's lit up is that part of the moon. But the colours on the phone. There it is. You're seeing what you're seeing. The moon is that light source is one thing, and the biscuit is another. Look at it, it's a chocolate chip cookie. I'm hungry, I want to eat the cookie. There you go, I think that's probably the best one. Let's just see. Oh, another one, yeah. There you go. That is the moon, ladies and gentlemen. There's no ball. It's a biscuit. And this is why we can't see the other side. There you go.
The moon is a metallic, powder-like, semi-hollow object that's not really solid, but it does have magnetic properties and crystal properties of reflecting light in a one-way direction. Really strange images of it. And let's say that the two, when they're close together, the images, the craters and so forth on the moon are interfering with the magnetic field of the sun object, and it's actually casting its own crater shapes and shadow backwards and appearing on the surface of the lit of the object that's lit up like the sun. Right, so when it comes in close proximity, there is some shadow play back and forth, but not necessarily the cause of the shadows. If we just say that it's, you know, electromagnetic interference. And this is where Mike and I were trying to go with the research. He grabbed I think this is also one of Dave Marsh's photos here.
This is the just need a black light. Oh.
Right. So this is another picture. I think this one is Dave Marsh's, maybe. Where you can see the moon is extremely lit up, and the bottom. This is like, you know, we call these the mushroom moon, right? Because the bottom is extremely lit up, and it looks like the object is actually bigger than the unlit portion of the object. And you can see that it's also backlit by some means. So there's definitely two light sources going on there. Modern science and mainstream says, oh, well, that's just Earth shine, right? It's the light coming off the Earth shining back at the moon and lighting it up. You know, 235,000 miles away or 85,000 miles away. You know, just let that sink in for a bit, right?
Yeah, and yet it's not an eclipse.
Correct, right? So this tells me that, you know, when light hits a crystal, right, a crystal lattice, it can polarize it, and it goes into the crystal and only comes out in one direction. So if the light, you know, we assume that the moon is capable of making its own light, although obviously not as bright as the sun. So you're seeing the moon, what it can do by itself on this half of the picture with the craters. And on this half of the picture is sunlight that's hitting the crystals, and that's why it appears to be larger and bigger and a whole lot brighter, where you can see that the lit up part appears to actually be bigger than the object, right, shining out. which is, the camera too. I mean, it plays a role. But then we go to the next picture.
Well, this one does it too. Have you guys talked about how the curve isn't right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. You've just okay.
Yeah, I wondered if there's another, something happening with the moon that's like, like it almost eclipses every month, It's like could be two more bodies at play. I've pondered this. Like,
yeah, the shape. I'll try to get into that just in a second. That's kind of where I'm leading to. This is the end of the line here. When I get to the final conclusion of what I'm thinking is going on here too. Like Mr. MrThriveAndSurvive mentions, the shape of this arc, right, isn't conducive to a sphere. Right, it doesn't make any sense.
Just look at the other half of it.
Right. So this would be it looks to be, slightly elliptical in this image, and this curve, right, is not a sphere. It would be more elliptical, and we see it all the time, right? You get a sharp French curve on the first, say 10-20% of the arch, then it starts to straighten out, and then it swings in deep on the other end as well. And another thing you'll notice, I have a picture of it.
Part.
Another thing you'll notice too is as the terminator line traverses across the face of the moon, you'll get shadows appearing and the crater detail appearing only at the shadow line. And then after the light comes across it, those shadows completely disappear, and it looks like it's just like a flat surface, right? And so the shadows obviously become canceled out. The other thing is a friend of mine, Bradley Gillen. He's an amateur astronomer, and he just oversaturated this one just a little bit. So this picture here, slightly oversaturated just to enhance what we're seeing. And so he's showing that, the light's coming actually through the object, but you can actually see that it looks like some of the images are being duplicated, it's being elongated, and it looks like it's being lit up from the inside out. And it has this holographic type of hollow look to it. And this is kind of...
If you ask me, you can only see it when the crescent is far enough.
Right, this is the... Yeah. And this would be... This is where Mike Helmick and I are kind of bouncing these ideas back and forth, is because Mike took a photo of Dave Marsh's really super high definition photo, like it was a big file, and then he took it into Photoshop and enhanced the lighting on it. And now if this was actually here, it would appear, right, even if it was backlit slightly. But when he saturated the image, there is no backside of the moon in this particular photo. But what's interesting is you'll see that there's a crater here in the front side of the saturation zone in chroma key. And then here's the picture. Here's the crater being duplicated in the shadow zone, which in this original picture, I don't know if I got the original, but in the original picture, you can't actually see that, because it's the shadow. So here, this crater here, I put a little square around it. This little crater is duplicated here, right? These two craters.
Look how that one shifted south, but the other one is shifted north.
This is interesting, right? So this one's, so you can see it's a radial effect, right?
Yeah.
So this one shifts north. This one is almost perpendicular. It's almost perfect, right? Those two.
Yep.
This one starts to shift south, and then these two here they're still shifted slightly south. And then this little group here, so this is this crater and this crater being duplicated in the shadow here. These two are over here, right? So you can clearly see that it's just a projection type of idea where the light is coming through the object and it's being duplicated in the shadow, but the shadow is actually on the backside of a hollow object, being projected through the object and appearing as a shadow on the opposite side. Right. That's the only conclusion I can draw from it, is that the moon, in fact, would be a cookie-shaped type of flat disk that is semi-hollow, like it's not completely solid,
Like
and
a
it
contact
has anisotropic properties of light.
Like a contact lens.
Like which?
I've got some pictures I can send.
Well, it's not like a contact lens. Just imagine a cookie, like a cookie that's had the stuffing taken out of it, right? It's like
for you.
it's like
I'm going to find them. I
Yeah.
I took them on my phone, and the moon looks like a cookie. I'm just going to find them.
Just one other thing whilst I'm thinking on, Chris. I was telling Rich about the the stars conversation that we had with the reflections of the stars on the water, and how some of them reflect directly off the water and other ones don't appear to reflect at all.
Right.
And he's never heard of it before. And I was just wondering if you could explain to him with pictures what he did to me the other day, because Rich would be like, whoa, because the way you presented it to me the other day was just, I've never noticed it, I've never seen it, I've never heard anybody talk about it. Rich hasn't either, but I'm sure the people in chat won't have seen this either. So when you get a suitable tangent that you finish in and you conclude your point with the moon, if you could go to the stars and the reflections on water and show Rich them and put it into the context that you did it with me the other day, I think Rich would be like, wow.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yep. We can do that. Here's up here too. All right. So this is interesting. So, it's been almost a year now, I think. I'm going to stop sharing the pictures. There's the evidence in our heads. I'll go and share another application here.
Yeah, it's gone a bit grey, but I'm sending these pictures over to Series in a second, and you can see the moon. I just had to saturate it on the phone, and yeah, that's not mine, and it looks like a cookie. I'm just going to send them to Series. But this is off an iPhone.
So about a year ago, I was playing with this concept and kind of drawing my own conclusions. And now it's interesting that the photographic evidence from the group of researchers all kind of coming in to support where I was kind of headed with it.
Oh yeah, because of the straighter one.
Right. So this is, it depends on how you angle the light. So this one is just, but you can see on the side view, basically what I made was an elliptical type of object, semi-hollow, and depending on how you turn it, is the face that you see. So if you were trying to take a picture of it, right, I don't have this one set up as an anisotropic where you can shine the light right through it, but this is just an example for shape. So the shape that faces us is the cratered type of shape, and the faces, I don't know if I can actually move the lamp, but
Hey Chris, can you just stop one moment? Series, look at the pictures I've just sent you and show them to Chris. What I've just sent you.
The actual plane of a toroidal field.
right. So it's kind of,
We actually see it turn or something.
yeah, so it was on the side, like it just kind of rocks back and forth as it, as it's facing us. It does a little bit of this that causes
And it rolls.
right. I have to go to wireframe mode here. See if I can get the camera, the lamp.
Series, have a look at the pictures I've just sent you on Messenger. They're exactly what he's talking about.
Cursor to center, selection to cursor.
Chris.
I'm going to rotate that.
See, it's a cookie.
Let me pop out of this for a second. Yeah, exactly, right? It's you end up with that cookie mushroom type of shape. Right?
You see what I'm saying? There's almost like there's already something there covering the moon,
Well, it's just that the light's passing through a portion of it in a direct straight line.
Look at that, it's a chocolate cookie. Chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah, so the light's hitting like the bottom corner of it and being amplified and then coming to you in a polarized beam of light, so it appears to be bigger than the actual physical coming out of it in a certain direction. It's like if you're looking through the edge of a flashlight on an angle. But the physical shape is kind of like I'm showing here in this model. Near as I can tell, is a flattened out disc, right? So the side that faces us is the craters, and it's probably smooth on the back side. Who knows? We've never seen it, and it depends on the angle. What we see is it starts to tilt. Well, then you would only see, this would be a phase, right? Starting to see the phase. But because the light passes through it, you always see the same face at the same time from any direction. So a person on the ground is going to see, either person will see the same image. You're actually looking through it.
I don't know, but whatever I see in the sky, we can't triangulate. We've tried to do it. So whatever I'm filming with my P900,
Yep.
it can't be of substance, basically.
Well, it is, but the light that comes through it is being polarized, right? And then that light is appearing within the layer of the air that can actually carry an image in a magnetic field, right? So your camera's only zooming to 10 miles high or whatever. Beyond that, the moon is just a really tiny object, really flat little thing floating around it there. But when it interacts with the magnetic field, that image is carried down to another magnetic substrate and appears in the sky like a hologram. It appears to be projected. It's kind of like a reflection in water type of idea.
Well, I took mine with my iPhone, and those ones came out really well, but I could just see something there, and I had to mess around with the colours. Do you see? If you look on there, you can see I'm messing around with the colours below the picture to saturate it a bit.
Right.
I sent these pictures in. I made a post on Sun and Moon. It's a cookie.
Yeah, it looks like a cookie. Yeah.
Was Cookie Monster right?
Picture is, that's what I put it in there. That says the 27th of December. I'd have sent it to you before, Chris.
Now see if you can actually take the same photo of the red moon.
It's a cold cookie.
Yep, you're going to say something for Thrive and Survive?
It was a cold cookie.
Yes, it would be cold. It doesn't look like it could be cold like that, could it really? It's weird. So, the light around the moon that Chris was showing us, that's why it doesn't match, isn't it then? Chris, that's why it looks like it does. Like when you see the picture, it doesn't, the light is much bigger than the actual shape of the thing. I wonder whether that thing was sort of rolling in front and rolling back somehow.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's going on, right? If I rotate, if you can see my screen there again. Yeah.
So Chris, you're saying
So if I
caused by the rotation?
it's just a slight angular inflection of an ellipsoidal object, right? It's just like a round surfboard, those like I don't know what you would call it. Those things you slide on in the wintertime, they're like a disc, right, or a shield type of idea, but then as it just kind of gently rocks back and forth in the magnetic field, you see phasing, and it also depends on how the light from the sun is actually interacting with it as well. And let me see, rotate Y. If I rotate the light in this model, I'm trying to get it to work here for you kind of live, because I haven't actually worked on this model for a while, but right. If I get it to work properly here, you can kind of see as I rotate the light source, this is why we see the craters appear right only at the shadow line, and then when the light becomes straight on.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right, like it just changes the phasing.
So if the suggestion is that it looks like it might be like a cookie shaped,
Yeah.
it would also be comparable to the underside of a lens, right? Like, as in, like,
It would be both sides at the same time. Yeah, you would have a convex. Yeah.
because I've often looked at the moon myself and thought, do you know, it kind of looks like the eyepiece of a. Imagine that we're on a petri dish and we're looking up to the underside of the lens on the magnifying glass, and there's just dirt on it and what we call dirt of the craters. And I looked at it and thought, it looks like we're being watched. For me, I mean, have you ever walked down the road at night time and felt that you're being watched? And the moon. I mean, I've done it loads of times when I was younger. I don't know if it's me being paranoid, but I've always considered the possibility that the moon is actually some kind of optical viewing device that somebody else is able to see us through. I know that sounds really stupid, but that's how I've always felt that I was being watched at nighttime.
You better watch it, Tony. You're starting to get into biblical stuff. The Bible says it's a witness.
Yeah, that's how it feels. It feels like it's witnessing me.
No, I'm with you there. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah, the two witnesses, absolutely. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, it defies all physics, in my opinion. For me, it's the evidence. I mean, I said to Rich when I first started speaking to him that the answers will be found in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and I still believe that's true. For me, it defies all physics. It's sticking two fingers up at physics and saying, come on then, explain this. And nobody knows what it is. And we look at it and go, whatever that is, we have no explanation for it. We see it as a round disc, but it does seem to defy all physics. It does seem to make no sense on a construct level. It seems to be, I don't know what the word is, but supernatural. It seems to be evidence of creation, and that's the word I would use to describe it, because whatever it is, it's not what they're telling us it is. That much we know for sure.
Really examine everything that they say it is, and I've always said I think the moon is the key to unlocking the whole thing as far as proof. Moon is the key to show that they're lying. But with the whole thing with the 180-day thing and all that, is just, you can't make the model work. You just can't make it. The phase is always coming back exactly the same number of days from the same side. I can't make it work anyway with their model.
Yeah, this should work a little bit better here. I'm trying to modify this as we go live here. Live research, boys. Live research.
What do you use to do that?
I'm just using Blender. Right now what I've done is I've taken the same solid model that we were looking at before, and I've turned it into, I'll show you the properties actually, using...
Is this called Blender?
So I've changed it to a transparent object now with a volume scatter of approximately and a density of 0.4, so it's about less than 50% dense. And I've given it a matching anisotropic property, so that now it's acting like a I guess it'd be a transparent crystal lattice, right? So it's only going to allow light come through it at a point, would be about a 40-degree angle. Now, if I actually rotate the lamp a little bit, see the properties will start to change, right? So if I rotate the lamp, as the light comes into the right direction, so that the crystals can reflect the light back at us, bang, we get a full moon effect, right? A really bright moon. And there's a slight shadowing now if I just kind of take my time moving the light source and let that render. because I wanted to show you the effect of light coming through a transparent object being reflected off of itself. I just want to see how close this will render image.
Has anybody heard any references to the time period where the moon was described as having what it was described as an index finger peeping out at 12 o'clock, and it was there for 2 or 3 days? I think it was a few hundred years ago. I've only ever seen it once, and I can't remember where I saw it, but there was some kind of projection protruding from it at some point in history, recorded in history in some way. I mean, it could well be old wives' tales, but I just wondered if anybody else had come across the same reference point.
I don't think I've ever heard that one though.
Yeah, 12 o'clock, there was a protrusion sticking from the moon, and it looked like a finger. It was described as a finger, and it was there for a couple of days, and I think it was Victorian times. But I've never found it since, and I can't find it again, and I wish I could know where it was, but apparently, yeah, there was something different with the moon at this particular period, and it is out there somewhere, but I wonder if anybody in chat's ever noticed it.
Could I just say that allegedly Dave Murphy has joined us as well. Dave?
Hello.
Hi everyone.
Hello, sir.
Howdy, Dave.
Dave,
Hey, how's it-
if I just tell you who's here, we've got artists. I think he's been on a hangout with you. You know Chris. Chris has just spoken. Chris from Canada. We've got Jeremiah from America. We've got MrThriveAndSurvive. We've got obviously Series. You know Series. We've got Stan Smith. We've got The Life of Riley, Anthony Riley, and we've got Judith, Israel, and me. And Anthony Riley's UK. Anyway, I think you've probably heard of him. Thanks for joining.
Oh, you're welcome.
We've been doing the moon. The moon is a chocolate chip cookie. Picture on series 1. There you go. It's a chocolate chip cookie.